If your sibling sins against you, go and point it out the fault when the two of you are alone. If you are listened to, you have regained one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others with you, so that every word may be confirmed and the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If that person refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if the offender refuses to listen to even the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind up on earth will be bound up in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if 2 of you agree about anything on earth, whatever you ask, it will be done in heaven by my God in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am among them. Forgiveness. Then Peter came and asked him, Jesus, if my sibling sins against me, how often shall I forgive? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, not 7 times, but I tell you, 77 times. And I say, if Jesus can forgive us for all our transgressions, then why can't we forgive each other? Blessed be the word.
Amen. Connie, that's a sermon right there. I think I can go home. That's basically the whole point. Good morning, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be here with you this morning. We are going to dig into, not for too long, but we're going to dig into this topic of forgiveness, this very fun topic that we like to deal with here in just a minute. But I just want to reiterate what a pleasure it was to get to take part in this deacon ordination and installation this morning. It's not only the 5th Sunday of Lent, but it is actually the 3rd Sunday of Women's History Month, or as I like to call it, History Month. You know, yeah, thank you. Thank you for humoring me. And in this time, what a pleasure it is to have a community led by so many strong, powerful, dedicated, committed women like Julia and like Laura, who are brave enough to discern their calling even when sometimes they don't have the privileges of growing up with people who look like them and speak like them in positions of leadership. And so when I see our young people, when I see Corbin, when I see Eliza, when I see Ada, and I think about them growing up and maturing and discerning their own call, it is my prayer for them that they have the gift of not having to make a way out of no way like some of the women who've gone before them. So amen to that. Yes. I wanted to launch into that before I get into the story that's going to be about 2 men. So I thought it would be a good balance. You know, the Bible, we have the Bible we're given, and there's a lot of men in there. So Peter, we continue to journey through this Wandering Heart series with our disciple Peter, and we've gotten to see him in many of his different human forms. He is a follower, he is a friend, a wanderer, and so much more. And he is also a person, as we've heard about in the last few weeks, he's kind of being handed over the keys to the church. As Jesus knows he's going to be departing from us here soon, he is building a legacy that he wants to last beyond him. And so as a part of that, as we can imagine, we find Peter here hungry for knowledge and for answers from his teacher, from his rabbi, who is Jesus. And Jesus, as we heard this morning, beautifully read by Connie, he's dealing with a lot of different matters that we still struggle with today on how we deal with these as a community. What happens when someone in our community commits a transgression against another person? What happens when that person commits a transgression against the entire community? How do we deal with that? How do we leave paths for redemption and also make the community whole and safe? And so Jesus is talking about that in this passage, and then Peter wants to take it one step further, and he says, wait. So when harm's done, this is how you deal with a transgression, but what is our responsibility to forgive someone in this situation? Do we have to forgive? And how often do we have to forgive if it seems like this person continues to make mistakes, continues to commit transgressions against us? And Jesus essentially says there is no limit. You don't forgive as many as 7 times, but depending on the translation, you can forgive as many as 77 times or 70 times 7 times. For Jesus, you can forgive someone over and over and over again. And like with many of these stories, we might be able to see a lot of Peter within ourselves, because it is the both beautiful and complicated experience of being a human that we develop relationships with other people. We love other people who will occasionally hurt us and cause us pain. And as people who make mistakes and have to be accountable to those mistakes, we hurt people we love, and we cause pain to those that we love as well. So what is our responsibility to forgive those who have hurt us? And are we owed forgiveness by those that we have caused pain to? Right? That's the essential question here. Luckily, as Jesus is teaching Peter these lessons, we get to read these stories and be students of his teachings as well. And Jesus' answer here, I think it's pretty simple in theory and a lot more complicated in practice. When we are wrong, we should forgive abundantly, and when we do wrong to others, they should forgive us. Easier said than done, because do we even have a solid idea of what forgiveness is? I don't know, maybe you can think back to what some of your first lessons on forgiveness were, but for me, it would usually go something like this as a child. You know, if you act out of anger, you know, you get mad on the playground and you push another kid down, like you have to go and say, I'm sorry, and the other kid says, it's okay, and, you know, and then you move on, right? That's it, the harm, you know, the unity has been reestablished. But was I actually sorry in those situations? Did that other child really forgive me for what I'd done? I think as we have growing young people in this community and as adults here, I don't know how often we ever get a more in-depth, beyond the surface level meaning of forgiveness that honestly we probably need in order to continue building happy and thriving relationships and communities. Forgiveness has often been taught to us as this higher moral virtue that we should strive for, right? Forgiving another person who's done something wrong to us is the ultimate selfless act that alleviates that other person from the guilt and the shame that they might feel for what they've done to us. They are set free when we're able to swallow our pride and take the high road, right? And of course, in recent years, there's been a lot of important discourse on this too about sometimes we have things done to us in our lives that feel unforgivable for whatever reason. Maybe we have traumatic things that happen to us, and of course, for instance, someone who experiences abuse has no obligation to forgive their abuser. And that person, they can accept forgiveness, but they are certainly not owed it. But what if Jesus, in this story, instead of imploring us to be so selfless and sacrificial, what if he is actually imploring us to forgive people not for the benefit of the transgressor, but he is actually doing so that we might be able to release ourselves from the harm that's been done to us? And what if I told you I'm not just making this up out of nowhere, but there's actually psychological science behind this? I was listening to an episode of a podcast called Speaking of Psychology that has to do all with the psychology of the act of forgiveness. And there are actually numerous emotional and physical benefits that a person receives when they are able to forgive someone that has harmed them, forgive someone that they feel anger towards, and they're able to let go of those feelings of anger and of grief. In this episode, Dr. Richard Enright defines forgiveness as a moral virtue where you are being good to those who are not being good to you without excusing or forgetting their behavior, without necessarily reconciling the relationship, and without throwing justice under the bus. When you forgive in the way that Enright defines, it might likely release that person of hurt and shame that they may feel for things that they have done to you, but more importantly, it might also liberate you from the hurt that you've been holding on to, from the hurt that is no longer serving you. As long as the act of forgiveness is, of course, of your own choosing, not pressured by anyone else, and as long as you have given yourself the appropriate time to heal, to say, I'm ready for this. Forgiving others, as much as we would like to think of it as a superior and selfless moral virtue, it can actually be the ultimate act of self-care and self-compassion. It is a statement to ourselves that says, I love myself too much to continue to allow this hurt and this pain to continue consuming my heart and my mind. I want to rid myself of the grief and the anger that I feel, and I want to be able to move on from it. What a gift that Jesus can teach us here. And let's face it, none of us are perfect. We've done other things to other people that warrant apologies from us and warrant us taking accountability. And most of us don't want to see the people that we've hurt continuing, we don't want to see our actions continuing to hurt them long past our mistakes. Jesus, in these final stories that we're reflecting on here during this Lenten season, he knows that his time is limited. Like I said, he is trying to give us the guidance and the wisdom that we'll need to grow and sustain this community long past when he is physically present with us. And part of this thriving and happy community that Jesus grows, that we get to benefit from here today, of a beautifully diverse group of people of different personalities and identities and backgrounds, part of having and sustaining that community means having a lot of grace and understanding for one another, and having a lot of grace and understanding for ourselves. We live in a very individualistic culture that says the best way to deal with these things is to seek vengeance towards those who have done us wrong, to punish and to exile, and that those acts in themselves are what create justice and reconciliation. And unfortunately, we've learned time and time again that this is not what ultimately heals us and creates peace within our communities. Even in the times where we need to keep someone at an arm's length for the safety and benefit of the community, that's not this act that creates wholeness, that creates reconciliation. It goes much deeper than that. Jesus teaches Peter, and therefore us, an important lesson here, that dealing with conflict and hurt in a community is no easy task. And I'd like to think we've gotten a little wiser since this time, but I don't know, we've still got some work to do when it comes to dealing with these issues. And as much as I am humbled and honored that you all trust me here as a spiritual leader in this community, I have to admit that I don't have all the clear answers on this. I identify a lot more with Peter and his confusion and his stumbling than I do with Jesus and his very confident wisdom. The only thing that I can say with true confidence is that I think Jesus wants his beloved community to thrive as individuals and to thrive in relationship and in community with one another. The God that we come here to worship this morning does not wish for us to be carrying around pain and heartache that we eventually need to let go of. God does not want us to continuously punish ourselves and agonize over the mistakes that we have made. So if we leave today with one commitment to ourselves and one commitment to each other, may it be that we love just a little more freely and a little more gracefully and with a little more compassion. As we heal and we come to terms with our own pain, may we be able to lean on God and lean on others in our community. And may that love be able to let us know when the time is right to let go of the anger and the grief that we are carrying. It is a difficult journey we must walk, and sometimes we wander off, but just like Peter, none of us, the beauty is we don't have to complete this journey flawlessly. As the early followers of Jesus did, we will get to walk this journey together, relying on one another as we wrestle with some of life's very messy and complicated topics. And our God walks with us down this road. We do not have to figure it out all by ourselves, thankfully. Amen? Amen.